Viktor Frankl said this: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. I want to read that again. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Meaning, we don't have to just react. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and his lived experience of finding meaning in the most horrific circumstance is a lifeboat for us today. He was a psychologist, amongst other things, and he emphasized the real importance of devoting your life to a purpose greater than yourself. He said that the meaningfulness of a life only results by means of seeking meaning in the first place. My way of saying this in Simon speak is, if we don't move, then the universe can't move with us. If we don't act with love, then love can't come through us. Here's something else that Viktor Frankl said. Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue, E-N-S-U-E. Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue. It is the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. I see this imprinted into Mother Nature also, where the life force held in the seed must die and transform to birth the plant. If the seed is not planted and just kept in its packet, it loses life and vitality quite quickly. The seed must change or remain unsprouted. I think we're no different. If social change or economic change or religious change are to come, we need to be the ones bringing the change. That's why we have that on those frig magnets. Be the change. Problem is, the solutions haven't presented themselves yet. The new economic, new political, new religious systems haven't presented themselves yet. And it's hard to commit to something that doesn't exist yet. But that lack of knowing doesn't stop the seed or the caterpillar from changing and metamorphosizing. And I think that we humans, thinking and knowing life forms, we're no different. Our destiny, our imaginal selves, our becoming, is actually blueprinted into us. But we have a problem to overcome as humans, which is our wonderful and brilliant minds. Our wonderful minds that allow us to make music and build churches and do all sorts of things. Our beautiful minds don't like change. They want to know what's going to happen next. And life doesn't tell us what's going to happen next, for a good reason, because we'd run the other way going, I can't do that. That's exactly what happened to me when I heard my calling to be a minister. My initial reaction was, oh, I don't know how to do that. And I heard laughing in my head. It's like, it's going to be okay. I'm not going to be asked to do anything I don't know how to do. Our beautiful but rather dominant minds can easily become fearful, and we tend to avoid change and be fearful of new things. It's a really bad thing about humans. Now, a few days ago, I was thinking about this because I was listening to a podcast with a water researcher from New Zealand. She's very interesting. Veda Austin is her name, Veda Austin. And for over a decade, she's been photographing water and analyzing the images of what she calls hieroglyphs that are displayed in the water as it freezes. Now, perhaps many of you will have seen the work of Dr. Emoto with the water crystals. Hers is similar to that, but she's looking at that threshold transition place in between liquid and solid. Most interesting. Now, I heard her talking about placing a sunflower seed in the water and then freezing it, and the image that appeared was the sunflower and not the seed. And she was like, oh, this happens again and again. Seeds which were incredibly holy to people like the Egyptians. Seeds, when you put them in the water and then freeze the water, display their becoming and not the seed itself. Very interesting, huh? I loved learning this because this is one of my ideas about the mystery of God. That there is in any situation a more loving outcome. I believe in this and I seek it in the form of healing or transformation. It's also why I write songs, because often I feel sad and I'm like, well, I want that sadness to be transformed into understanding. That within the ordinary is a vitality and a holiness. Now, I didn't come up with this idea on my own. I came up with this idea when I was working with the Quakers in a medium security prison. I was doing something called Alternatives to Violence Project. And they had core teachings that made a lot of sense to me. They would say, there's always a non-violent option. So think before you react, and expect the best. And then you can ask for a non-violent alternative path. That was their premise. Now, at the time I was doing this, I worked as a counselor, and in addition to working with violent men, I'd also worked with LGBTQ youth and youth homelessness. So basically, most of the people I worked with were not receiving loving kindness by society. And they were people who didn't have a lot of options, and often when they looked in the mirror, they didn't like themselves very much. So I took this idea that we were teaching the guys in prison and brought it into the counseling room. And a core principle of me as a counselor was, and still is, that we can hold a vision of the other's beauty and their wholeness. We can hold a vision of the other person's wholeness that they haven't accessed yet. We can see a person based on who they are becoming and not from the limited perspective of who they have been up until now. There's an incredible transformation that can happen when a young man glimpses a glimmer of his worth reflected back in your eyes. Now, I know this from personal experience, because when I was a teenager, I got a lot of people telling me that I was really wrong and bad, and it was linked with, I'm a transgender person, and it was really linked with my sexuality and my gender expression. And there were a lot of, especially religious people, telling me that I shouldn't be the way that I am. But then in my 20s, I met people who were like, yes, you should be the way that you are. You are beautiful. And I caught a little glimpse of my self-esteem in their eyes that didn't exist in me yet. Now, it doesn't have to be queer stuff. It could be anything. We are all given messages about not being good enough. And we all have to unpack them as adults. The faith and vision of what we believe to be true and possible somehow births and makes itself available to others. In a very real way, we create space for growth and healing just by witnessing new potential and wholeness waiting in the wings. I want to bring us back to Meister Eckhart, who asked us to pay attention to what is in our looking. He said, the eye with which you see the sacred mystery is the eye with which the sacred mystery sees you. Jesus said, the queendom, the kingdom is within you, meaning the dimension of wholeness, that peace that passes all understanding, that singing field that we were singing about earlier, Rumi, Sufi singing field, is within you. Now, in modern times, we are lucky enough to know about holograms. They are real things. I was fascinated by them when I was a teenager, how you get a 2D image, a laser does a magical thing, and the image jumps off the page in 3D. It exists. I've seen it. And I want to suggest that this is a good diving platform for us to dive into the fact that there's probably many dimensions beyond time and space within this solid sensory experience that we're all having. I like to use the term magic to scratch holes in ordinary reality. But some of the churches that I go to, they get frightened of that word magic. I didn't think you guys would. It's such a useful word. But whatever language you do or do not use, there are unseen realms within or around our ordinary life, especially in threshold places like twilight, where right now I'm fascinated by the fact that sometimes I don't know if it's a firefly or a star. In those threshold places might be, like we were hearing about, birth or death. Or it might be that we're on pilgrimage and we're far away on the other side of the world from our ordinary life. At these moments, we are able to see the world more expansively, less judgmentally, more creatively and lovingly. I'm blessed to have poet friends in my life, and the way that they see the world that comes out through their poetry is magnificent and magical and so helpful. Poetry is what's keeping me sane in these dark times. Human society is in chaos right now, and people are reacting with fear and hoarding wealth and lashing out on the most vulnerable among us. It's devastating to witness. You know what I'm talking about. Poetry helps me lean into that simple choice of resistance by adding beauty, compassion, joy even, joy at the fireflies, joy at the number of people in this church, this Brigadoon church that almost nobody knows about. Joy, simple act of resistance. Because it's the same world that we're looking at. We are in such a strange divided time, especially in this country, where your neighbor might think incredibly differently from you and you live in the same village. What is in our looking? Here is a poem by my friend Christine Walters Paintner. May our eyes be opened to the word holy, scribed on every leaf and petal, on every wing and paw, as the seasons unfold in their vibrant dance of change. May we hear the call from their pages to blossom forth, to bear fruit, to surrender and yield, to rest into the mystery. Let the journey of caterpillar to moth teach you the path of transformation. Let the patience of the mountains and the singing of the stones give guidance for what it means to endure. Let the rise and fall of the sun and moon circling the blue-tiled sky teach you about journeys to fullness and to rest and release. May holy wisdom be revealed in every season, reading grace at every turn. My friend Christine and I, we teach Celtic spirituality, and one of the main things that we teach is there is an original scripture that was written long before those scrolls. And that original scripture that everybody used to know how to read is Mother Earth. Albert Einstein said, "We can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." We need a vision and to dream ourselves into a better, kinder, more earth-cherishing future where we belong to one another and we belong to this good earth. And none of us know how to solve the violence of Israel and Palestine. None of us know how to transition into environmental health for all living beings in this climate chaos. And what do we do about our divided nation? The answers to our problems seem insurmountably out of reach. But here's the thing that I want you to take away. Just as peace is a way of being and not an end destination, we know that. Peace is a way of being. The solutions are a way that we move towards. They're not an end destination. We find the solutions by walking the path. My favorite teacher for us here is Peace Pilgrim. She lived in 1908 and died in 1981. And for the last 23 years of her life, she gave up her name, she gave up all her possessions, and walked across this land, campaigning for nuclear disarmament, world peace, and inner peace. And the two were inseparable for her. She said, "I shall remain a wanderer until mankind has learned the way of peace. I will walk until given shelter and fast until given food." That's what she did for 23 years. I could talk all about her, but I'll stop there, except for there's two teachings that she said that I find very helpful right now. She said, "Those who seem to fail pave the way and often contribute more than those who finally succeed." Those who seem to fail pave the way and often contribute more than those who finally succeed. She says, act, whether you see results or not. She also said, a few really dedicated people can offset the ill effects of masses of out-of-harmony people. What we dwell upon, we help bring into manifestation. A few really dedicated people can offset the ill effects of the masses. What we dwell upon, we help bring into manifestation. I don't really use the word manifestation because people have watered it down too much. Instead, I sing songs like "Be Still and Know That I Am Love," where we place a sacred quality, a grace at our core, and that becomes the gravitational force that we step forth from. Richard Rohr says, how you do anything is how you do everything. So that's simple. How you start your day, what you place as your motivation, changes you. And you are the only thing that can change the world. Our beliefs, visions, and inspirations for life can take us from the ordinary same old into a life worth living for all. And the outcome of our life is not ours to know. Ours is to get on with seeking the beauty our heart recognizes as true. And that's different for every individual. Any task truly worthy of your life will not be completed in your one lifetime. So be the change. Be the change. Guillaume Apollinaire says this. I'm going to end with this. "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't, we're afraid," they responded. "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't, we will fall. Come to the edge." And they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. Thank you for listening. Hey, I'm going to ask you to take what was useful from that and leave the rest. You don't need my theological baggage. You need your own vitality.